Anna, and this is the first year that I've decided to grow flowers to sell. I've grown flowers for many years, really since I was a little kid, but I've never sold them before. And I want to talk about how that went, because maybe someone else is just looking into maybe selling some of the flowers from their own garden to see if this is something that they might want to do. The three main ways that I sold flowers this year were through a roadside stand, a class that I did at our local library, and orders. Now, of the three, the orders was definitely the most consistent way that I sold flowers. Roadside stand was kind of hit or miss for me because we live in a very rural area, and it's just, people have to kind of go out of their way to come here. So I don't know if in the future I will focus on that route or not. I'm still deciding there. The class was actually really cool. I only did one. I think I'd like to do more classes, but maybe have them smaller. There were about 13 people in the class I did. It felt a little bit too big. I think in the future I'd like to limit it to 5 and do it maybe at my own home. It was a really neat way to get to know some of the more local people and who might be interested in buying flowers. So the classes and orders are definitely kind of the area I'd like to focus in the future. Whenever you first start doing something, there is a lot to learn. You make mistakes, you learn things, and that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the things that I've learned this summer that I'm going to apply to next year when it comes to growing and selling cut flowers. And without further ado, here we go. The first thing I've learned is that it's really, really important to start small. If you start small, the mistakes you make will be smaller. They won't hurt as much, they won't have as big a financial impact. So I started with what was my vegetable garden. I actually converted the majority of my vegetable garden to flower production. And I'm really thankful that I did that. I could have expanded, I could have, taken over my whole yard, but if I had done that, I would have made the mistakes that I made on a much larger scale. So I definitely think if you are looking into getting into cut flowers, definitely start on a small scale. The next thing I've learned is that you are gonna plant things that you are never gonna wanna grow again, and that's okay. There's all these lists out there. They're like, my top 10 favorite flowers, and these are must-grow cut flowers. And you know what? Some of them are going to be duds in your specific growing conditions, and other ones are going to do great. And all you do is you take that information, you say, you know what? I'm not growing this again because it didn't do well for me, but that doesn't mean someone else can't grow it. It's just some things are going to do well for you, where you live, what kind of soil you have, what you're working with, and other things just aren't. An example for me is the China asters. They are one that was definitely recommended by multiple places, but they just didn't do well for me. So for me, they're pretty. They took a long time to grow. I got very few short stems off of them. I could experiment with them next year, but my growing space is so small right now that I just can't justify sacrificing the space for something that I could put something else there that would be more productive. Another great example of this is celosia. See if I have some here. Take a little piece. This is celosia. This is a, I think Pompous Plume or something like that. It did not do particularly well. The majority of the other things in my garden did very well. I know a lot of people that love celosia, but for me, again, my growing space is so small that I can't justify, growing something that I don't think is going to do well, and it's just so tiny. It makes such a minimal impact in my bouquets that it's not worth it. Don't be afraid to grow things that other people are not growing. I actually have flower farmer friends who choose not to grow gladiolas simply because they're kind of not in vogue right now. They're not in style. They think of them as old lady flowers. I personally love them. I think they're beautiful. And honestly, in the class that I taught, I had so many people be like, oh, gladiolas, they're so pretty. Or what is this? Was a big question I had a lot. Like, what is this? This looks like it belongs in a tropical place. So yeah, if you really love a flower that is a cut flower, but it's just not in style, you're still allowed to grow it. Perennials are your friend. So this is Rudbeckia. This is Rudbeckia triloba, and then I have some other Rudbeckia. I'm not really sure what kind it is. It's just black-eyed Susans that I've had for a really long time. And they're really full. I find them to be really awesome in bouquets and arrangements, especially once you hit that early August for my grow zone. What I love about these is they don't take up room in my growing space, because many of your cut flowers have to be started a good 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost, and that takes up a lot of space, time, energy. These things might take a year or two to get established, but once they're established, they're going to keep pumping out blooms for you for a very long time. Plant lots and lots of herbs, and perennial herbs are even better. This is basil. This is going to die when it frosts. This over here is a type of sage that I've used in a lot of arrangements, and it's actually really pretty. It has a pretty good base life. And again, I don't have to plant it every year. It's gonna keep multiplying and coming. I have a lot of herbs. And one thing, don't be afraid to experiment with your filler flowers. It's starting to die back a little bit, but this right here is actually a type of oregano. It has these kind of white, purpley, light purpley flowers. Some are darker than others. And it's such a pretty filler flower. I had no idea. Honestly, I grow this for myself to using for culinary practices, and I had no idea that this would make such a beautiful, long-lasting cut flower filler greenery in bouquets. So don't be afraid to experiment with things, and herbs are really just a great way to go to get your greenery, that beautiful smell, and that extra filler sparkle. And it's dual purpose too, because you can use it in the kitchen. Seed saving has the ability to save you a lot of money. When you first get started growing your cut flower garden, you quickly realize that it's expensive. We're talking like $5 for a packet of 50 seeds. Sometimes the packets only have 25 seeds in them, and if you want to grow a lot, even if you buy them at bulk prices, it's expensive. And one way to combat that, at least in future years, is once you have the seeds, you can save them. Now, this doesn't work with hybrid varieties, but if it is an open pollinated variety like these marigolds, I can take one of these dried seed heads. Actually, I'd almost like it a little more dried than this, but you pull it out, and all of these seeds are next year's, or can be next year's flowers. And just in my hand here is like the equivalent of a single packet of seeds. So that's like $5. If I were to trash all this and not save these seeds, I would be wasting $5. So it's a no-brainer, save your seeds. Native plants are amazing. I have some of these in my garden already, but I really wish I had more, because they attract many of those predator bugs that I want in my garden, the ones that are going to eat the bugs that are eating my plants. And as far as I'm concerned, the more of that, the better. Set a budget and stick to it. It is no secret that if you want any business to be successful, you have to spend less than you make. And it is really easy to let all the other different flower farmers, what they're growing, the newest dahlia varieties, whatever is popular, to dictate some of your spending and make you go off budget, and could even potentially make it so you're spending more than you're making. So this is just a tip where you're like, keep yourself in check and actually ask yourself, is this actually going to make me more money? Are my customers actually going to be wanting this, or would they be happy with what I'm already growing that's working for me? There's nothing wrong with adding new varieties, but if you're adding them at the expense of your budget, that can cause a problem. Soil health is huge, and I'm using this garden bed as an example. I didn't do a ton with the soil here. I didn't get it tested. I didn't do a ton of amending, and my flowers did suffer out here. There's a few things that really thrive in whatever type of soil is here, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't, or at least it took a lot longer. For example, I have zinnias planted out here that I planted at the same time as my other zinnias, and they took a month longer to grow. They're beautiful now, but they really did struggle in this soil. So one thing I'll be doing next year is testing the soil and seeing what I can do to improve this garden bed in particular. Well, I hope that it was helpful. If it was, let me know, leave a comment down below, and if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you next time. Bye.